As you prepare to deploy, please check to ensure you have all of your personal electronic devices.
Good morning from Toronto. Today we're going to be flying with Air Canada on one of their new A320s in economy class to Winnipeg, Manitoba. If you follow this channel, you know it's been about 2.5 years since I was last in Canada, and back then the A320 wasn't part of Air Canada's fleet quite yet. And while we're at it, we'll check out the Canadian airports. There's been lots of news about lost baggage and delayed flights, so we'll poke our head inside and see what's kind of going on. My flight's not until 9:55, but it's already been delayed by half an hour till 10:25, so I have a little bit of extra time. So come along, let's check out the airport and enjoy the A320 as we go from A to B. My day started by taking the bus to Viscount Station, which is a parking garage and last stop of the Link train at the airport. So a quick jump on that will take me to Terminal 1, which mainly Air Canada and other Star Alliance members use. As we make our way in, I should clarify, the screen at the start said A320, and during my introduction I said A220. I've been aiming to fly on the A220, the newest addition to Air Canada's fleet, but with unpredictable aircraft changes, today happened to be the older A320, which I wasn't aware of until the plane showed up at the gate. In fact, we'll see. This will be a recurring theme this summer, and it actually took me several flights to finally fly on the A220, but it's coming, I promise. Prior to returning to Canada, there have been plenty of news on the dismal state of air travel in the country. Everything from long lines to baggage issues to cancelled and delayed flights, and overall chaos at the airports. In fact, for July 2022, YYZ was the worst airport in the world for delayed flights. And at least we weren't the worst for canceled flights. Nonetheless, I wanted to see for myself. I made my way upstairs to the check-in floor, and lo and behold, there was, well, nothing. Everything appeared to be working as intended. It certainly did not look like what I had seen on the news. I was able to quickly drop off my bag and be on my way. Thank you. There's not too much in the airport street side, in Terminal 1. So next up is the security check. Alright, so I just made it through security, and it only took about 8 minutes to get from the line to the other side. And it's one of those things you kind of have to help yourself with. Make sure all your liquids are in a bag, have your computer out all ready to go, make sure if you have a water bottle, there's no water in the bottle, and it just makes everything smoother. If your bag gets to that secondary screening, then it's going to take a lot longer to get through. But one thing I did notice is there's a lot of CATSA staff just scanning boarding passes. You scan to get into the line, and then you scan at the conveyor belt. So if there is an issue with the CATS and the security screening and long lineups, perhaps it's more just an issue of allocation of staff. I really don't understand why there has to be 2 people or more, or encountering 2 people to scan the same boarding pass twice. Anyway, we're on the main floor of Terminal 1, and our gate is D35, so we have some time. So let's saunter over to the gate and maybe get a coffee because it's still pretty early. So let's go ahead and do that. Gate 35 is located towards the end of the terminal and tucked in the corner off to the right side. By the time I got there, the aircraft still hadn't arrived yet, so I decided to hunt for that morning Joe. So the lineups for the coffee depositories are pretty long, a little too long for my liking. I checked the Timmy's over here and the 2 Starbucks throughout the terminal, but it is 9:30 in the morning. But this is where canned coffee comes in handy. Anyway, the aircraft is here. It's about 9:35 now, so I think we're gonna start boarding in about 15 minutes. So just wait and jump aboard, and I'll grab a coffee or something up in the air.
And you're all set.
Thanks. We're in 28F for our hop over to Winnipeg. The flight was already delayed. We scheduled to depart at 10:20. However, 10:20 came and went, and cargo was still being loaded at 10:30. I had a connecting flight in Winnipeg with an initial connection time of 70 minutes, which I thought was more than plenty. But by now, I was starting to be mildly concerned as this flight finally pushed back at 10:56, an hour late. Will I make my connecting flight, and will my checked bag make it too? Only time will tell. Today we're on a 20-year-old A320 delivered way back in 2002, one of 17 in Air Canada's fleet. The aircraft has 146 seats in 2 classes. With a seat pitch of 32 inches, the economy class seats are a bit roomier compared to the Dreamliner we flew on, and there's 3 lavatories on board. By the way, just before we take off, on the right in the distance, you'll see an Antonov 124, owned by a Russian cargo company. It just so happened to fly in the day before Canadian airspace closed to Russian aircraft. Now unable to leave Toronto, it's now subject to the over $1,000 per day parking fee. Our 2.5-hour flight would take us over the Great Lakes, across Ontario, and into southern Manitoba. Economy is in the standard 3-3 seating configuration. The cabin sports blue fabric lined seats with light gray seatbacks. I enjoy these older seats as they're more cushy and roomier than some of the economy seats found on newer aircraft. Seatback houses the monitor, USB slot, and power outlet. There are 2 power outlets per row, and those seated in seat F don't have one. Lucky me. Though I had a USB slot, it didn't work when I tried to charge my phone. And here you can see the screen can rotate to provide a better viewing angle. And below you have the table and seat pocket. With that extra inch of seat pitch compared to the Dreamliner we flew on, there's enough space to comfortably keep your belongings below. And you can see the window seat provides you just that bit of extra space. And the pocket contains a safety card, air sickness bag, and current credit card promotion. And above you have the reading light and of course the air control. The in-flight entertainment system is well over 20 years old and is no doubt showing its age. What was once considered fast and state-of-the-art is now sluggish and finicky at best. But it shows you how far we come along with the IFE. My screen wasn't calibrated. As you can see, the mouse pointed far from where I touched, so it was difficult to access a show to watch or anything else. Though sometime later, for whatever reason, the touch function corrected itself and functioned more or less as intended. If you noticed the big red sticker when I boarded the aircraft, then you'll know that this aircraft is equipped for Wi-Fi, one of the few upgrades to this aircraft over the 2 decades. Again, there are a selection of plans to choose from, but like most of my flights, I didn't bother. And as always, this is the part of the program where if you're a new viewer, I invite you to subscribe for more aviation and travel related content. As this flight is over 2 hours, Air Canada offers their onboard bistro service. Being late morning or early afternoon, depending on the time zone, the Caesar for $6.50 looked mighty tasty, so I ended my quest for that morning coffee, one of the many tough decisions in life. Even though the IFE may be subpar, the weather was nice and not too overcast, so I was able to enjoy the wonderful summer colors below to accompany my cocktail. The flight was full, a good sign for the airline, so I checked out the lavatory earlier on when I boarded. It contained all the essentials, complete with that dingy yellow light, another sign of the past. Overall, it was a nice, smooth summer's flight over to Winnipeg. The staff did a great job. They were friendly and interacted with the guests, keeping us safe and informed us of updated times. This was the first of 2 flights, as I had a connection in Winnipeg to Calgary. So the cost of this one-way Toronto to Calgary itinerary came out to $292. Even though the A320 isn't their newest aircraft, the seats are comfortable and you get a bit more space than in other economy seats. These planes have been flying for a long time, so this is the economy product which comes to mind when I think of Air Canada, as I've experienced this particular product countless times over the past 20 years. If watching entertainment to pass the time is your thing, I would recommend to have content on your device for the off chance your IFE doesn't work or it's prohibitively finicky. We land with about 15 minutes to spare before the flight to Calgary was set to depart. Luckily, that flight was the next gate over. There were 9 of us on this flight which had the connection, and the staff did a great job by allowing us to deplane first as quickly as possible. So I'm going to end it here. I didn't have time to conclude in the airport, so let me know what your thoughts are about Air Canada's older economy seat on a domestic flight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, where we find out if my checked bag made it or not.